My wife keeps trying to manufacture evidence against me ahead of her trial. Her plan is to blame her assault on me and label me an abuser. I am thinking because I am a man, I feel so alone, so defenseless, so constantly afraid.
Wow, a lot going on there. What is going on, everyone? It's Mark Real Jr., the Father's Rights Attorney, and you are watching another episode of the Father's Rights Playbook. What is our question we're going to be addressing today?
My wife assaulted me, then said I abused her. I want to leave, but I am afraid. My wife has been going through a mental health roller coaster. Between postpartum depression, family issues, and just her lack of coping skills, she's really descended. On Friday the 13th, she assaulted me while I was holding our baby boy, and then cut wrists in front of us both. I called the police, and she was charged with assault. Since the emergency protective order expired, she has been back in the house making my life a living hell. I have insisted on minimal interaction, but she keeps forcing arguments on me when I'm on the toilet, tying my shoes, cooking food. It's the usual stuff, saying I think all these terrible things that I don't think, and then making me defend myself from non-stop accusations. But it's always so extreme, and I'm so terrified that when she escalates, she ends up assaulting me again. My wife keeps trying to manufacture evidence against me ahead of her trial. Her plan is to blame her assault on me and label me an abuser. So she keeps secretly recording me and says stuff like, "When you grabbed my arms and hit me," which never happened. I've never grabbed or hit her or anything like that. But I can tell by how she speaks that she is recording it, trying to get me to somehow incriminate myself. She has also been threatening to get me kicked out of our home, to get custody of our child taken from me for me using legal medical marijuana at night, nowhere near or connected to the kiddo, and has said she bruised herself and tell the police I did it. It has me so on edge. Even though I did nothing wrong, I feel so scared. Then there are the resources that are supposed to help me. The CPS worker called me crazy and ghosted me, instead talking to only my wife. Social services tells me I don't qualify for any aid and couldn't tell me why. Then all of the regional domestic abuse hotlines take my messages and never call me back. I am thinking because I am a man, I feel so alone, so defenseless, so constantly afraid.
Wow, a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Very, very challenging situation. And obviously, you feel bad for. Sounds like a pretty serious mental health issue, a mental health crisis by the woman in this matter. And my mind immediately goes to, sounds like there was a pretty serious and obvious assault and then self-harm, which are going to be big factors. He mentions that she was arrested for assault. Sounds like she's going through criminal proceedings now. And during that, she also slit her wrists, which I can say from, unfortunately, far too many experiences, if you're harming yourself, you're probably going to lose all custody of your kids. So, David, with this, my mind immediately goes to, you get an EPO. An EPO, the police officer basically signs on, it's immediate. It gives you the opportunity to go get something more permanent.
Right.
A little bit confused in this situation why the district attorney's office didn't implement a criminal protective order as they would normally for a victim, but it appears they did not in this. So client calls in on this and says, like, hey, here's what's going on. She's back in the house. My mind immediately goes to, we need to file for a domestic violence restraining order in family court. What are your thoughts?
Well, absolutely. And first of all, with the district attorney right now, Riverside County, Inland Empire, they are so backed up with cases. And it's not that I'm coming to the defense of the DA here, but you're not going to get the immediate relief that you can get from the family courts right now. They have that specific mechanism, the domestic violence restraining order, that you can bring in and get temporary relief the next day. This gentleman here is empowered to file that and ask for immediate relief, which includes mother having to be removed from the house and to find lodgings elsewhere, for him to have temporary custody of the child until things settle down a little bit, where the court will then set within 25 days a hearing for a permanent restraining order. What comes to my mind is protecting the child. That's first and foremost here, and I know that's in the person's mind as well, especially with the mother's behavior. The courts will want to make sure that child is protected. If dad is consistent with his actions and shows that the child came first for protecting, that's the route to take right now, the domestic violence restraining order.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that if you lay out the arrest and you attach the police report, since you're the victim, you should have access to that. There's really not much more of a slam dunk case where a temporary restraining order in family court will get granted, and that's going to buy you 3 or 4 weeks of time to be able to get everything situated. So I think a lot of times men feel ashamed of being the victim of domestic violence and don't take action to protect themselves and the child. Because in this instance now, she's also making threats of getting him kicked out after she's the one that's been arrested, making allegations about him that could lose him custody. So, I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of. If you're the victim of this, it's something that's serious and you need to take action.
Absolutely. And so many fathers out there and that go through this this nightmare, really, where it goes past walking on eggshells with your spouse or your girlfriend. You believe you're going to be set up for an arrest. 24 hours a day. You're afraid to do anything in your own house. You're afraid to be assertive to protect your child even. It might be seen as some sort of aggressive behavior on your part. The best thing to do is get the family court's jurisdiction in on this situation. That's what they're there for. Again, they want to make sure that child is okay. They want to make sure the parties are sent separate ways temporarily to cool down or to figure out permanently what needs to be done. This person has excellent facts on his side where he should go forward with a restraining order. And
here's the deal, too, is I always tell guys that there's a very clear delineation in terms of there's been progress for a couple decades now in terms of men in family court and judges not assuming men can't take care of their children. But the way I see it is there's a very clear delineation of pre-COVID, post-COVID. Pre-COVID, there were judges you knew that the client was going to have a tough time. There are fewer and fewer of those judges, and they are more sympathetic and more knowledgeable and more educated on these types of matters, where a lot of men are scared, like, hey, if I come forward with this, I'm going to get screwed. If I file a restraining order, she's going to come and file another one. You're going to have the upper hand and understand that the family courts today in 2024 have never been more equitable.
Agreed. Don't be afraid to file one, and don't feel any shame in the situation you're in. And you're quite right, Mark, about when COVID came in, the situation changed quite a bit. Suddenly, people were spending 24/7 with each other. Tempers rose, sensitivities rose, and things really haven't yet returned to normal now. Furthermore, not to get too much into the weeds here, you have a new generation of teenagers becoming adults, getting married, getting in family situations who grew up with COVID. Things are a little more black and white in terms of just the anger that some people hold on to, and the resentment between couples, especially when there might not actually be this doesn't apply to the writers so much, but the DVR courts, the domestic violence courts, have been used a lot for people that just have the normal marital gripes trying to get a head start. But in this case, sir, what you're talking about, this is perfect for the family courts to step in, protect your child and protect you, and get you out of what sounds like a nightmare situation.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this is the allegations it sounds like she's making. Unfortunately, or fortunately in some situations, unfortunately in others, the domestic violence restraining order, when you file for it, it's an emergency filing, and you do not get the chance to respond for the temporary order. So if she's going to go make wild allegations about you, she just might forget to tell them that she got arrested for assault and self-harm, and all of a sudden on the family court side, she has the advantage now.
I was talking with other counsel today about this as well. The judges, they want to sort it out they want to separate those parties and make sure everyone is safe and in different areas even if there's a slight benefit of the doubt, they would rather be overly cautious to protect the parties, but especially the children, and make the temporary restraining order rather than flip a coin or go, it's probably not that bad. Let's wait for the permanent restraining order. You don't see that as much today as you might have seen it pre-COVID.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, if you don't take action, she will. And it's going to put you at a huge disadvantage. I mean, I will say this. She obviously either doesn't have counsel or doesn't have good counsel. If her plan in her criminal case is to incriminate you and that's going to absolve her of her crimes, bad strategy in a family court domestic violence restraining order proceeding, probably even worse in criminal. So it sounds like she's willing to say or do anything, and there's very few cases where I would look at someone and say, like, you have to file for a restraining order. These facts would tend to indicate to me as like the first thing is like, we must file a restraining order in this matter because your health, safety, and well-being, your child's health, safety, and well-being are at risk until you do.
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. So thank you guys. So first of all, thank David for his time today, and thank all of our listeners and viewers for watching another episode. And as always, we'll see you guys next week on another episode of the Father's Rights Playbook.
Have a great day, everybody.